I have never pretended on this channel to be a very good gardener. And this year, shocker, no exception. This is my first aloe plant. I got this plant because I wanted to have an aloe plant because of its medicinal properties. If a kid gets burned or cut or something, to be able to break off a piece and put that goo on their finger. As you can see, the aloe plant's not doing so hot. I hope that I can save it. Any of you out there with a green thumb that knows like how to care for an aloe plant, comment below, tell me what I'm doing wrong. I'm afraid there's no hope for my cilantro. Yeah. Other than maybe crumbling that up and putting it on a taco. This is one of the sad realities of homesteading and hobby farming. In the beginning, there's gonna be some waste when you first get into something. And honestly, even when you become more experienced at homesteading and small farming, there's still always some sort of waste. So how do you account for that? In a recent live show with the Homesteady Pioneers, me and accountant Mike dove into this topic. Idealist homesteader is thinking this is going to be amazing. I'm going to grow 2 pigs and I'm going to get all this bacon and I'm going to get all this sausage. I'm going to grow a raised bed garden. I'm going to have all these tomatoes and I'm going to make my own salsa. And then August comes and you got to get the pigs on, loaded up, and you got to get all your crops harvested, and things get kind of crazy. It's your first year doing everything. And before you know it, you look at your garden and you have these gorgeous tomatoes that are now all on the vine still and they're rotting. So that's your waste. There is going to be some waste. So how do you factor waste into your cost? What's the right way to look at that?
Well, I would say if it was me and I was going into this totally green, I would want to, again, try to find some sort of estimate of what kind of waste I can expect. Like, if I'm going to grow, let's say 10 tomato plants, what sort of waste can I expect from those 10 plants? Can I expect a 10% waste, meaning basically 1 out of those 10 plants is not even going to produce for me? Or should I expect more waste? Should I expect less? That's the way I would start. I would also kind of try to think through what kinds of waste we're talking about here. A lot of times we're talking about food, right? Which means if you successfully harvest something and you can't sell it in time, that might not necessarily be waste in a holistic sense, because maybe that just means, okay, well, I'm going to take this food that's still good and I'm going to put it in my freezer and I will eat it at some point because I just couldn't sell it in time. This is where we kind of blur the line between like true profitability and like profit in the sense of I'm trying to get something back out of the center. Trying to get back more than I put in. Yeah. I would start that way, and then I would just build a big buffer. This feels kind of to me like the surprise cost, where like it's going to be hard to know exactly what sort of you'll have, but you'll know you'll have some.
This is one of those surprises that you don't think is going to happen, but you buy, you raise 50 meat birds, and a couple of them are going to die like on the way to the butcher. You're going to lose. So like you're so close and then something's going to happen. And it happens to everybody somewhere down the line. So whether it's tomatoes that you wanted to can them all, but time got away from you. We just, the other day, you'll see it on the channel probably next week, we went cherry picking and we had a big group and we got 20 pounds of cherries. And we were just having fun cherry picking, and now we're like, oh no, what are we going to do with 20 pounds of cherries? We don't get them. We paid for them. We don't want to waste these cherries. So now we're dealing with like, okay, how do we use these cherries? Cherry 20 of them. Cherry pie.
Cherry flavored coffee.
But it's one of those things. So you want to make sure you're prepared for that, and planning ahead is a good way to do that. That's all the costs. This is just within the chicken world, but I wanted to bring out my buddy John's pastured poultry packet. John is Well, you know Captain Mike because you work with.
I know John.
You work with Johnny. John from Farm Marketing Solutions has this pastured poultry packet. Now, this is very focused if you're raising pastured poultry and for a business, but also for those of us who just want to have a profitable homestead. This workbook, it focuses on both those enterprises. What I love is John is really good about identifying so many of the costs you're not thinking of. And in his workbook, if you're thinking about doing pastured poultry, you pioneers get a discount on this. Check the library. You can check that. There's a discount on the pastured poultry packet. You get 10% off being a Homesteady pioneer. This thing, you go through it, John talks about your feed prices. Grit. You weren't thinking of putting grit in your chickens, but you should be. And he talks about why, and he says what that does, what the grit does for them. And you got to buy grit. Electricity. He goes through the price per kilowatt hour, how many watts you're going to go for your fixtures, for your lights, and he's got the blank spaces to walk you through it so you can fill out your numbers. He has his typical usage, because if it's your first year raising chickens, you're thinking, I don't know how many lights I'm going to use. His typical usage, 3 fixtures, 250 watts each, equals 750 watts. He goes through all the math. So for those of you who are not like Accountant Mike, who are more like me and aren't naturals at looking at all these numbers, John in his pastured poultry packet walks you through them. Labor, his labor estimate. He talks about budget 10% mortality. You're talking about that waste cost. I wanted to show you that. If you don't know about the pastured poultry packet, I wanted to show you pioneers because you guys get a discount on this thing, and it is an awesome tool to go through and plan for pastured poultry operations. Check the library, the discount section. John is one of our discounts. I got an exciting new one that we're going to announce next week, and I'm going to try to fill that even more. We've had a huge response to the Pioneer program this month. A lot of new pioneers. Thank you guys so much. We can't do this show without you. And one of the ways that we're trying to thank you is by getting you more discounts on really good quality stuff like the pastured poultry packet.
So I feel like a couple minutes ago I talked about, back when we were talking about surprise costs, like trying to get some sort of rough picture of this sort of stuff, right?
Yep.
That sort of thing, you said it's 10% off. Do you happen to know how much it is?
The digital pastured poultry packet, I believe, is $40. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's $40.
Let's say it's that.
The digital.
Let's say it's anything less than like $100.
Yep.
Like, in my viewpoint, that is such an easy investment to make, because even if that saves you from one problem that you would incur on your own without just, going into this totally green, in my mind, that is completely worth it. Because again, like if you're starting a brand new enterprise, you're going in without any real concept of not only what could go wrong, but also how much it could cost. And you're not really aware of, like we talked about lighting just a minute ago. You could also easily go too far the other way, have way more lighting than you need, end up spending too much in electricity. You could keep your chickens in a tractor that's much too big than what they need, because you think, oh, chickens, I want them to, have space and stuff like that. Maybe you put them in a tractor that's huge, and you actually could put more chickens in there. Something like that, I think, is tremendously valuable, because it kind of can give you a little bit of a jump start, a little bit of a leg up, and hopefully save you from learning some of these lessons the hard way, getting you at least a little bit ahead.
And if you amortize the cost on things like knowledge that fast forwards you, it's pennies to the dollar. So
there you go.
Per chicken, I mean, that's going to cost you $1 per chicken.
Per chicken amortized.
Over a lifetime. So totally worth it. That's what Pioneer membership's all about. Get you ahead. Get you,
So waste, the sad truth is you're going to have some sort of waste on your homestead. It's better to plan for that. And that way, when it happens, you don't find yourself losing more than you expected or losing money because you were anticipating zero waste. Somewhere around that 10% figure is probably safe to build in depending on what you're doing. Hopefully you're pleasantly surprised. Sometimes you are, other times not. If you're interested in getting that Farm Marketing Solutions pastured poultry packet, I got a win-win for you here. If you want the pastured poultry packet, pioneers get $4 off. That means it almost covers the cost of your first month of Pioneer membership. Become a Pioneer by clicking here and save money on your pastured poultry packet plants, trees, shrubs for your orchard, comfrey cuttings, chicken waterers, feeders. There's a whole lot of discounts in the library and there's more coming. Click here to become a pioneer.